This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 214 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com and by HorseQuencher at horsequencher.com.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn.
Hey, guys, welcome back.
Hello, I missed you guys.
It's good to have you back
from
again.
Vacation. Yeah.
I know, and happy O Canada Day, Philip.
That's right. We're recording on Monday, July 1st this week, and it happens to be Canada Day.
Isn't it funny how we put O in front of it because of your national anthem? We always
Yeah, you guys just
Canada Day, yes.
That's funny.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Now, do you guys celebrate the same way we do? Is it party time?
I think it's not as big, but yeah, there's definitely the fireworks, the whole thing, you know, a day off for everybody except for us horse riders. But yeah, big celebrations, barbecues, summer love. It's perfect.
Well, I want to talk to you guys a little bit later about fireworks. I have a question for you, so we'll get into that a little bit later. But I do have an announcement to make for the Horse Radio Network here this morning. And that is that this Sunday, July the 7th at 2:30 in the afternoon, we have teamed up with the people from Gettysburg. They are doing the 150th anniversary reenactment of the Battle of Gettysburg. And that happens all of this week. They have 40,000 reenactors. It's going to be the largest reenactment that has ever happened. 800 horses, and they're expecting 200,000 to 300,000 spectators over this week.
Holy
it's
moly.
A huge
That's
event.
Awesome.
And we've worked with them this is the first year they're actually providing a video feed. It's called Battlecast. It's called the Battlecast. And it's going to be a video of the Battle of Pickett's Charge, which will happen this Sunday. And, of course, Pickett's Charge was one of the largest battles at Gettysburg. And it's $12.99. It's just one flat subscription at $12.99. You can watch it on your computer. If you have a way to hook your computer to TV, you can watch that. And it'll be we will have the video right on our website at horseradionetwork.com. They really wanted to reach out to the horse world because there's so many horses going. Plus, we have had probably a dozen reenactors on our shows over the last 4 years, and almost all of them are going to be there. So we have had people travel that we've talked to from California, from almost every state, but from the West Coast have traveled 5 days with their horses to get there for this battle. It is the biggest deal for Civil War reenactors that really has ever happened.
Cool.
They do this reenactment at Gettysburg every year, but not to this extreme.
Right, with so many people.
That is awesome.
So for less than the price of one ticket to get in, you can watch it. You can watch it in the comfort of your own home, not fighting with 200,000 people to see it. And you're going to be able to do that this Sunday. Just go to horseradionetwork.com. You can buy your subscription right there, and you'll have 4 months worth of subscription, so that you'll be able to watch it. They have a lot of the battles that happened earlier in the week are recorded and on there, so you're going to be able to watch it at your leisure for the next 4 months. We're actually having a Gettysburg party here at the house on Saturday. Invited a whole bunch of people over to watch it. So that's what we're doing.
I'm sad we don't live in the same town anymore. I would love that. That is so cool.
Yeah, we're really
Yeah, but you guys already know how it ends, right?
Yeah, we do know how it ends.
No surprise.
It is pretty cool. I mean, these horses are so well trained to put up with cannon fire and musket fire, and all the noise. And the hardest thing to train them to do is not the sounds. And cannons are loud. Trust me. It's the smoke. They have a tough time, the toughest time, because it's very smoky, and the smell, it gets to them. So that's one of the hardest things they have to do to train them.
That is really cool. Well, Glenn, what time does it start?
It starts at 2:30 in the afternoon, Sunday, July the 7th. But as I said, there will be a recorded version that you'd be able to watch anytime. So if you hop on over there by Sunday and then buy the subscription, you'll be good to go.
Great. Well, that sounds fun.
HorseRadioNetwork.com. There'll be a big banner right in the middle of our website, so you just click on that and you can watch it from right there.
Cool. Oh, I love it.
Yep.
Well, that's exciting. I like it. So, Philip, what's been going on in the news for dressage these days?
Well, we've been talking about it for weeks, but the Aachen show finally went off, and I guess the USA team placed third in the Nations Cup.
Yay!
Stefan Peters and Legolas led the team. They were fifth individually with 75.298%. And that was their second competition outside the United States. So that was a big deal because the big German team was showing. I think Damon Hill won all the Grand Prix classes in the CHIO, but the US did really well with their team. I think it was Stefan Peters, Tina Kanya, Jan Eblig, and
Shelley Francis was the last.
Francis.
Yeah, they were great, and it was Shelley's first CDIO and first time with that horse doctor at Aachen, and she did a great job. So really excited about how our team did and getting the international experience. And so excited to announce that Caroline Rothman and Sagacious, Caroline's been on the show many times, and we'll ask her to come back on to talk about her adventure going to Aachen. But she and Sagacious were wonderful, and they were in the musical freestyle, and they were great. They finished second overall in the under 25 division and really turned some heads internationally. So congratulations to her, and we will work. I know she's on her way back soon, so we'll try and get her on the show. So congratulations for sure.
That under 25 division is fairly new, but it's becoming a really big deal. I mean, there's a lot of really nice horses and really good riders in that competition, and especially at Aachen, which is like basically the world championship for that division. For her to do that well is just fantastic. So
yeah,
good on her.
That's really exciting. I know. Big thumbs up for her, and congratulations to her and her whole team in Florida. They're great people. So very excited.
So what's coming up on the show here, Reese?
So we have a great show today, Philip. You and I are going to answer a listener question here in a little while, talking about how do you become a horse trainer. So that'll be fun. And then we have Veronica Holt. She is an FEI TD and Stewart coming on. We have never given any love to Stewarts and TDs. So I felt like it was a great time. And Veronica is known internationally, and she's on the USEF Stewarts and Technical Delegate Committee. And to come on and just kind of share with us what the role of a TD is at a horse show, as they really are advocates for the competitors. So she's going to talk a little bit about that today. So I'm really looking forward to giving some love to a group that we haven't ever discussed yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they really work, when the show is going on, they work in the background, and they're doing a great job when you don't notice them, right? That's that right. Sort of thing. I think the judges get a lot of press and, about their scores and stuff like that, but stewards and TDs definitely have a very important role, and some people don't even know that they're there. So
exactly,
maybe we can explain what they do, and maybe next time you see a steward or a TD, you can say hi. So that would be great.
Well, guys, it is that time of the year when, you have Canada Day, we have July 4th, and one thing that's common between the two countries is the fireworks. And one thing that was common is that horses don't like fireworks. Neither does my dog, for that matter.
Yep, mine either.
A lot of dogs don't like them, yeah.
My Newfie hates it.
We do put the Thunder shirt on in the evenings almost every night because there's so many fireworks. But it was worse in Kentucky. Kentucky, the last year we were there, had just made legal the big fireworks. You could only ever use sparklers and stuff before.
Yay.
But then they made big, and I don't know what it was like last year, Reese, because 2 years ago we were there. There were fireworks every single night all around us.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a war the one night. There were so many. And they're using the big ones and, shooting them sideways and trying to burn people's houses down and stuff.
Yeah.
How do your horses deal with it, and what do you do? Do you put them in? There's no Thunder shirt for a horse, so...
I wish there was. So we also have a dog, a 125-pound dog that wants to sit in my lap the whole evening. So Annie has a really hard time with it. So we try to put her in the office and turn the radio on so she feels like she is in a war. Last year, thankfully, it was so dry, there was a ban on fireworks. So and if you saw somebody shooting them off, you could call the authorities, and we have a policeman that lives right next door. So that was great because we didn't have to worry about it. But I love July 4th, actually. Love our country. But we don't go anywhere. We stay on the property just to make sure that there's nothing that goes on that we're not here for. I'm really nervous that somebody will run through a fence, and I put up as many horses as I can put up and turn the fans on and turn the radio on. That's what we do for the horses. I do worry about, I have 2 horses that live out in the field and they have a shed. I don't lock them up. I let them it's an older mare and a baby, so she usually takes care of the young horse pretty well. But I'm checking on them for sure, make sure nobody does anything silly like run through a fence or something. So that's what I do, but certainly I would love to hear if anybody else has suggestions. The main horses are in the barn, and with the fans on and the radio, they don't seem to jump around as much. But I personally worry if they are free, that they could do something really silly. So Philip, what do you do?
Well, I haven't really run into it as a problem, in our rural neighborhoods. You don't really, I mean, our neighbors haven't, I've never had a neighbor that really had a big fireworks issue. I think most of our fireworks are organized events that are, in town, in the town, in the small town, which is far enough away that we haven't really had a problem with the horses being close enough. I mean, I think they can probably hear them and see them, but not that they get worried. I think they're a little bit too far away to worry about that. So again, we're just kind of lucky around here that there isn't a ton of people buying and lighting off their own fireworks in their backyard.
You just don't have the redneck population that I do.
Well, I didn't know how to put it that way, but
I'm going to say it.
Less of a Yahoo factor than in Kentucky, I suppose.
Yes, we have a Yahoo factor. Our neighbors are, we do have neighbors, and I'm going to call them and say, hey, are you guys going to do it? And if you're going to do it, can you do it behind your house as far away from us as possible? So, talk to your neighbors and
I think, just having a good rapport with your neighbors, and, you can't stop people from enjoying their day and lighting off fireworks.
Exactly.
You
Bummer.
at least maybe mitigate some of the problems, I suppose.
Glenn, what do you do?
Well, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You just have to. The horse, actually, our horse doesn't seem to be bothered by it as much as the dog.
Yeah.
He seems to go with the flow. And I think part of it helps living in Florida where it thunderstorms loudly every day.
Right. It's like a fireworks show.
It is. I mean, every single day we get thunderstorms and there's cracks and, loud thunder and everything. So, and these thunderstorms are different. Where you guys live, you have fronts that move through. So it comes through in a wave and it leaves, Down here, we have what we call pop-up storms. They just pop up over top of you and they sit there for 3 hours. And they don't move at all. So you'll have the thunderstorm will not move. It just sits there. So, the other night we had thunder all night. I mean, it was just from the time we went to bed till the time we woke up, there was thunder and lightning all night long. So it's a little different.
Man.
I think that desensitizes them a little bit to the loud noises.
To the noise, yeah.
But the dog thunder shirt, thank God for those things.
I think I'm going to have to order one. Actually.
Do they make them that big?
I don't know. We've been talking about it. I need to get a rush order. Yeah, essentially. Do you have a people one?
I'll tell you what, they work. Really? They're not a paid advertiser here, people, but these things work. I mean, they really do work. Everybody I know that we've turned on to them, it works. It really does.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. So I hope everyone has a very safe and happy 4th of July. Enjoy. And for those, if anyone has any other tips, let us know because I'd love them. But I definitely have some anxiety on July 4th for the horses, for sure.
Earplugs. Maybe earplugs.
Yeah, actually, it's not a bad idea. It's actually not a bad idea at all.
Do the bonnets,
Good job,
bonnets and earplugs.
You can duct tape them in.
Husband is on it.
Put them in there and duct tape them in so that, yeah. Hey, I know how to use duct tape.
Hey, that's a good idea.
It's good for everything.
Oh, maybe not duct tape, just maybe the ear piece.
The ear bonnets.
Bonnets. Yeah, good idea. Cool.
Well, that was my question of the day.
I love it. Thanks.
Let's take a break for another commercial, and when we come back, you have a question from an actual listener who wants to know something serious. So we're going to talk about that. This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
Commercial feeds are fortified with nutrients such as proteins, vitamins, and minerals. They are made up of a variety of ingredients that provide a particular amount of energy. Most feeds have been designed to address the needs of a certain type of horse. It is important to understand that all feeds are formulated by nutritionists to be fed in specific amounts. When the correct amount of feed is provided, the horse consumes the appropriate amount of energy and nutrients. The feeding directions included on the feed bag or the feed tag are specific to the particular feed and should be followed. When you feed less than the recommended amount of feed, your horse is not getting the full complement of nutrients that he or she may need. On the other hand, too much of a good thing can also be bad. The overfeeding of concentrates can lead to grain overload and oversupplementation, and feed should never be cut or mixed with other fortified feeds or plain grains because this changes the nutrient profile and can cause imbalances in energy, protein, vitamins, and minerals. If you need to include additional supplements in your horse's diet, choose products that are formulated to complement, not compete with fortified feeds. If you feed a plain grain such as oats, additional fortification may be necessary. Kentucky Performance Product supplements are specifically designed to complement, not compete with, the modern concentrates used by today's horse owners. Each supplement is manufactured to exacting standards in certified facilities using stringent quality control guidelines. So choose Kentucky Performance Product supplements because the horse that matters to you matters to them. Learn more about Kentucky Performance Product supplements at kppusa.com. That's kppusa.com.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, it is a real pleasure to have Veronica Holt here with us today. Veronica, thanks for joining us, and how are you today?
Well, you know what? The temperature in Colorado is finally dropped down to the 70s. There is not a fire within 9 miles of me currently. So life is pretty good today.
That's good news. That's good news.
That's really good news. My goodness. Well, Veronica, you have been just one of my mentors for many years, and we were on the USCF Steward and TD committee together. And I saw you at a horse show, and I asked you to come on the show because we have never given any love to stewards and TD on our show, and no reason why other than judges and secretaries and everybody gets the accolades, but we forget that you guys are here and you're here to help the competitors. So can you start talking to us a little bit about what the role of a TD is, and we'll just get started.
Well, there are two views on this. The rule book very clearly says that we have no authority, a TD has no authority at a competition. But we certainly have the authority to be able to point out where there are rule infractions and what is the best way to pick it and fix it. When I'm hiring a TD, I want somebody that really knows their stuff and can help me keep out of trouble. And so I look for the best, most professional people in things that I know will not be like a bull in a china store. I had a background of conflict resolution working for the EPA when I was younger. And I'm not saying that conflict resolution is a good skill to have when you want to be a technical delegate, but it certainly helps if you know when to listen and how to respond, because people do tend to get upset when things are not going well. And I see my primary responsibility to the horse. The competitors are worried about their schedule, the way they're riding. You know, they're dealing with staff. Competition management is looking for a number of rides down the center line and the fact, are they going to be up or down from last year? There's nobody really there standing up for the horse. And I teach quite a few of these clinics. I've been lucky enough to be in a position to teach and maybe help clarify some of these priorities for my colleagues, those that are coming up through the tubes and those that have been doing it too long and need a refresher. But it says that you have to, it doesn't come down until letter F. So the USEF, which is our governing body, licensing body, obviously has more priorities than I do. To satisfy himself or herself that the accommodations for horses, feeding, training areas, etc., are suitable in all respects. The steward or technical delegate must commence his duties early enough to deal with those matters. I think that's primary. There's nobody peering into the stalls the way I peer into a stall. The technical delegate, I was sent, remember Risa was the program, the FedRec program, when we were sent out unannounced to competitions of interest that have not really been doing a good job. And I arrived at a show about an hour before the first ride, and they did not know I was coming, and they didn't know who I was. It was a sort of a backwoods competition, which can be brilliant. This particular one was not. And the TD arrived 1 minute before the first ride, bringing the judges. Well, the TD had no way to satisfy themselves that the arenas were set up correctly, that they were ready to go. Excuse me, that's a cell phone. That they were ready to go, that the footing had been worked correctly. I mean, you don't, if a management is required to steward a warm-up ring half an hour before the first ride, then who's going to say that they were there? That's a question on the report. So I'm obviously very popular today. I'm sorry.
So you will find the TD at any place around the show. Is that
they're
correct?
Required. If you've got a licensed competition, they're required to have either a small R or a large R technical delegate. The large R is the more senior. You need to know more. You need to be willing to do bigger, more visible shows. You need to be that in order to do a regional championships. And you need to have a pretty clear file so that people can count on you for stepping up and doing the right thing. And doing the right thing the right way, too. You definitely want to be in a situation where you want to help the management get it right. Even although I'm an advisor in name, I have a pretty big stick. And I'm accustomed to getting my way after I determine whether I'm right or wrong. And so I have different ways I approach it. My favorite one in a warm-up, when I don't particularly like what I see in a warm-up, is help me understand what you're trying to accomplish here. And by that time, I have grown twice my size, and I'm very obvious, and it's very obvious to everybody that I'm talking to this competitor about what this competitor is doing with his horse. And generally, they leave. And so I rarely have to go to the step of ever filing a protest or making some official record of their behavior. I very rarely have those problems, but I'm very visible, and I've worked in areas all over the country. I don't do so many small shows anymore. I've done quite a lot of big shows this year, where there is a great deal to be lost or gained by the owners of some very, very fancy horses, and they are very needy. But I think they have in many ways a right to be needy because they've invested a huge amount of money in their training and their performance and in their status, and that matters to many owners, and it also matters to riders, which is correct. I'm nosy. And if I hadn't been nosy, I would never have found in one of the southern states an Andalusian stallion cross-tied with hobbles and kick chains. Ooh. I would never have seen it if I hadn't looked at the ground in the stall. I would have just seen a horse being cross-tied, which by and large is not that big a deal. But it certainly is when you put it together for all those other things.
So Veronica, when you're at the show, do you talk to us about kind of what your daily procedure is when you're there?
If it's a show I haven't done before, and for the very big shows, I go the night before, and if I don't know the grounds and I don't know the management, I will ask for an inspection that night. There was a very, very famous show in Florida where I was sort of assigned to be the steward. There were two other of my colleagues, and the manager chose me, thinking I would be the most lenient of the three. And he was horrified that I was interested in taking a look at the configuration of his arenas. It was an insult to him. But I did anyway, of course.
Of course.
So,
yeah, that's my girl.
I went back to him and I said, okay, this person who is obviously nameless, and I had a great deal of respect for him. I said, well, you can change the arenas now, or you can wait until the judges arrive and tell you to change them 30 seconds before the first ride. What would you like to do?
Sure.
Because I needed him to be able to try and see if he could save face. I didn't want to take him down, but I did want to point out that they got it wrong. They had
right. It will have to be
boxes.
changed. It would be his choice about when it would happen.
Yeah, it was a question of, no, you're wrong. The judges' boxes are not correct, and no manager worth their salt wants to hold up competitors who are getting ready for their first test of the day and say, well, we're going to need another 15 minutes because we have to move two judges' boxes.
Sure.
And so I think I look to management to embrace the experience of their technical delegates, or lack of, because there are a lot of new ones out there. Fortunately, the new ones are coming out with a much better background of the needs of the sport. It used to be more, and I think I got there through this way, is more who you knew and whether you could string a sentence or two together.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily that you were a good rider. It wasn't that you'd proven yourself in any way, shape, or form. You did have to take a test, but those tests were always open book, and if you could read, you could probably get it,
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of people. I was so flattered to be asked quite a long time ago to do a show at Debbie McDonald's place, and I was so impressed I did not measure the arena because I figured, well, look where I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And Lisa was the judge, and Lisa said to me at the break, good Lord, Veronica, none of these people can get their circles right. And I went, oh, my gosh. It was a short arena because we had a zillion, training level 1 rides or
Lower
whatever
level,
it was.
Yeah.
And it was short. It was too short. And
No.
Debbie's husband had put up the ring. And I tell that story to say, don't ever think that you've got it.
Don't assume it, right?
Exactly.
Don't assume.
Don't assume.
Nope. Really, really important. When I refer to the fact that the TDs know more now, it's because we have done considerable work in beefing up the requirements for to even apply as a technical delegate. So many hours and so many experiences as a show manager or as a show manager of record. Not just an assistant show manager, because we never know what an assistant does. Or an assistant show secretary. Are they just handing out packets, or were they in on the difficult job of scheduling a competition? So a TD has to know all the facets of what makes a competition work or not, and where to suggest the fixes. An example, if the scores are not being posted within half an hour, that's too long, in my opinion. In a lot of small shows, you might have another ride in front of that same judge, and you do the same thing, and the judge gets irritated with the rider because the rider hasn't read the comments. Well, if the rider hasn't been placed and has had a chance to review her score, which she thought was, high 60s, and it ended up being middle 50s, she needs to try and show that judge the next time she goes in that she gets it. Whether she thinks the judge is right or not, that's what the judge is looking for on this particular day. And so why are the scores not being posted? Well, are the runners not running? Are the judges sitting on tests and fiddling with them and making some changes at the last minute? Are they going into the scoring office and do we not have enough scorers? how are we doing the scores? Have we got two people hunting pecking a 10-key machine, or is there somebody that can rip through those scores? Or are they forgetting to post them? I was told years ago that they never post the scores. They wait until the class is finished. And I said, well, you've been wrong all this time. They should be posted, and I think we clarified the language in a reasonable amount of time. I think half an hour is very reasonable. If you're not set up to tell the competitors how well the judge thought you did, then we're not doing the competitors very much service, because you can go on thinking it's a 65 for as long as you like, but it's not going to help you improve if you don't realize that your bend and your lateral work is all wrong, or whatever, you know?
And that's just such a good example of what you're there to do and make the show run a little bit smoother for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So, Veronica, I just have a question, because it actually came up at a competition, and I did see the TD speaking to this particular rider, but can you clarify sort of the roller? Just kind of go into that and that whole kind of discussion.
I think it's come to the top of the discussion again in Europe, and there's a whole big thing going on about it in the Danish Federation. From my perspective, and this is why I think the TD should be a horse person. One of the things in any kind of work, you want to be sure that the horse is not overworked, or worked in a manner where there is no time out given. To be long and low for some time without ever having to do some kind of little canter work or some moving forward work. When a horse starts, their eyes start to bulge, and they have a higher level of sweat, and they're breathing hard, then I don't care how long the horse has been held in a certain position, that's too long. Yes. There was sort of a 10-minute thing bandied around, but then what was happening is people were waiting to the 10 minutes and then they would intervene. If I think it's too much earlier, I'll stop it right there. And I'll use again. An awful lot of people are watching you work here, and they're concerned about the welfare of your horse. I try to leave them with some dignity, because I'm perfectly capable of leaving them with none. But that's not. I don't get very far that way. And so I like to try and say, we would be more comfortable if you could give your horse a break every now and then.
Right.
There was a competitor in California, and that's as close as I will get, who was doing a hand gallop around warm-up and scattering amateurs right, left, and center. He was young, rather elegant, I think German rider. And I finally had to tell him to quit. And his trainer came to me later, and she said, well, how else are we supposed to get the horse to go forward? I said, I think really that's your job at home. We expect the horse to come to a competition, warm their muscles up, remind them of certain things, and go and compete. This is not a place where you can teach a horse to go forward. Most especially when I'm worried about that person who can't hardly stay in the saddle because your rider is scaring her horse.
Right. When it becomes the safety of another person.
It becomes a safety, and it becomes a fairness. Right. Too many people, when they've had a ride that have had a few mistakes or errors, or maybe even egregious errors, like never getting the changes or whatever, will want to then go back into the training areas and reschool. I'm okay with having 1 or 2 goes at getting that change back. I'm not okay with more than 10 minutes, because if he didn't get it then he's not going to get it. And so take him down, put him away, give him a break, try it again later, maybe come out for half an hour later, and start again. But the practice arena in a dressage competition is not a training arena. I mean, trainers, as you well know, Reese, are all over the place when they're competitors are in the ring because it's in their best interest to help the competitor do well, but not at the expense of the horse, because everybody's watching them.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything that is not good and not nice will be on YouTube in 30 seconds.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
So, Veronica, it sounds like there's quite a bit of leeway between different TDs and different stewards on how they might deal with different situations. What kind of direction do you get from the federations or from the governing bodies to help stewards and TDs in their jobs and when to step in and when to not? Or is it just up to you guys just to, kind of, do they send you out there and just say, do your job? Like, how does that work?
Reese and I were working on a program to try and address that directly. Also, particularly to help those competitions that were competitions of interest, that were really not very successful in what they were doing for a number of different reasons. There is a clinic that they're required to attend every 3 years. Most of the good ones will go every year, unless they're really on top of the rules and they're not worried about something missing. I found that if I missed a meeting or a clinic, then I was worried that I was not in the top of my game, because in the old days, you really had a hard time finding out what was going on and what had changed. The rule changes were not coming in a consistent manner, but they are coming now. There are several technical delegates who do not know the meaning of a conflict of interest, and several stewards as well. The local officials tend to be hired a lot because they're cheaper, and they're going to be working in many instances with their friends. It's very hard to be out of the conflict of zone if you know darn well that this trainer's been doing that to her horse for years. If I come across the scene, then I'm not going to have that conflict, so I don't have a problem with telling this person to cut it out.
Right. So it's better to have somebody that is coming in with a fresh eye rather than somebody
I think so.
more local in many situations for that conflict of interest.
I think I think so. I did a back when I was, I don't know, I think I was chair of the Technical Delegate Council at the time, and we did a spreadsheet on TDs that would work for food. In other words, are willing to negotiate their fee if they could go somewhere different,
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that, and I hung on my friend's coattails just because she was networked and I wasn't. So I got to make a lot of contacts across the country, which is why I think Reese and I got to know each other, because her mother was carting her and her sister around all the shows.
Right.
Everywhere.
We've heard about all those days.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So, Veronica... Oh. No, go ahead.
No, the program was taken down because somebody in a southern state that I quoted earlier decided that was giving an unfair advantage to those TDs that were willing to work for food, other than those that were not. And so legal, once they get involved in these things, right, they just did away with it. And I thought it was a very healthy way to get so-and-so out of Maryland and into Portland or into Chicago or into Ohio, seeing a new group of horses and a new group of management techniques, because you tend that way to pass on best practices. So if I see a competition management group doing something that is very creative and is in no way compromising the legitimacy of the competition, then I'll pass that on.
Sure.
Otherwise, how would you know?
Hopefully it would spread.
Yeah. And then hopefully it would spread. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for helping to clarify sort of what the role of the TD and the steward are. And I hope that everyone will feel a little bit more comfortable talking to their TDs and steward at the competition. So thanks so much for your time today.
You're so welcome, Maurice. Bye-bye.
Is your horse not drinking enough? Whether it's from weather changes, minor illnesses, trailer and traveling stress, there are many reasons you'll have a horse refuse to drink sufficiently. Yet being fully hydrated is the first line of defense against minor issues becoming major. There is a product that helps even the pickiest of drinkers drink more, all-natural horse quencher. Listen to what four-in-hand champion Chester Weber has to say about it.
Since I was introduced to Horse Quencher, I've been wildly impressed with its ability to keep the horses in the water buckets drinking, and it's given me real peace of mind. One often doesn't know they need a product until they're introduced to it, and this was a product I didn't know I needed at all, but due to the traveling that we do, it's been really helpful. It's also been very helpful with horses that, are a little colicky or something like that, will always hang in bucket in their stall. They'll drink more, and their general health will just be better.
Take it from Chester Weber, Horse Quencher is the all-natural product you want to help your horses drink as much as they should. Find it at your local feed store or tack shop, or online at horsequencher.com. That's horsequencher.com. Well, one of the things that we need to talk about really quickly today here, guys, is your Equity, MFG.com, manure forks. And how much I know you guys love yours. And,
oh my gosh, love it!
And we love ours. And, we're not just saying that. We actually do use these things.
We use them all the time.
Using every single day. Everybody knows that those horses, they don't stop eating and they don't stop pooping. So you need that fork. You need a good fork every day. And these are just, perfect. Just easy to handle. And I can just tell it's going to last. I mean, when you put a 13-month warranty behind something, it's not cheaply made. They did it right. It's a nice fork.
It's a great fork. I have to be honest. I am so impressed that 13-month warranty. I thought for sure in the first month it would have broken. Oh no, because every other manure fork I've ever had breaks within the first week or two that we have it, and it hasn't broken. And everyone loves it. Everyone fights over it.
And when you have a manure fork with a broken tine, the poop always finds that hole.
So annoying.
You can't use it.
Well, then you kind of figure out a way that you can still shift the shavings.
We've all done it.
So we've done it.
And
it's
you're like,
so annoying.
avoiding the little hole because you don't want to go out and buy another one because you just got that one.
Just bought another one. You don't have to worry about that with Equity.
One of our listeners on the Horses in the Morning show posted a picture of their Equity MFG. I think it was the Flex and Fork. It wasn't the motorized one. It was the Flex and Fork.
Right.
And it was in the middle of arena laying on the ground, and there were 4 donkeys in the picture playing with it. They were stepping on it, and they were rolling it over, and they were playing with this thing. And it was so funny because, it's even donkey proof. And that says a lot.
Donkey proof. Yeah.
I have some horses that come for training that are a bit donkey-like, but I don't have any donkeys. But I will tell you that it's wonderful. It really, truly is the best fork we have ever used.
The general rule of thumb is if you're cleaning more than 3 stalls a day, you should get the motorized one. That's the shaken fork. And it does have a battery in it, which lasts forever. Ours has just lasted a long time. But you plug it in every night, and if you clean more than 3 stalls a day, it really will cut down. You press a button, and it shakes for you, and it decreases the amount of shavings you use, they say, by up to a half. You can save like $1 a day. And then you can also cut your time in about half for cleaning the stalls, and definitely your energy. So if you have more than 3 a day, get that. If you have less than 3 a day or you're cleaning outside paddocks, then you want to go for the Flex and Fork. That's the non-motorized one. But they have the same heads, the same suspension system built in. It's just one's motorized and one's not. And the motorized one, I got to tell you, is fun. If you're a guy that likes gadgets, or if you're a horse husband,
it's like the ultimate.
Maybe Travis is cleaning stalls.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if you have a horse husband that cleans stalls, or you want him to clean stalls, get him the motorized one. Because then it becomes
kids would
fun.
Really like it better, right?
Yes.
Oh, your kids. Oh, I like this.
So check them out, equitymfg.com. So you guys have another question from a listener you're going to tackle today.
We do.
All right.
We have a really good question. Philip, do you want to go ahead and tell our listeners about it?
Well, this is so you want to be a horse trainer question. We had somebody that wrote in and is considering making the jump to being a full-time trainer instead of working in the office, I guess is what she does now. And she says that she's taken on a couple of students who are friends, and she wants to figure out where does she go from there if she does want to become a horse trainer, like Reese and I.
Yes, on our day jobs, not our evening radio job.
Not our radio. So you want to be a radio show host?
So you want to,
expertise.
That would not be our expertise. Yep, exactly. We're getting better, but I think this is an interesting question, and I have a lot of people that come to my barn that want to be horse trainers, and I like to tell them sort of the nitty gritty about what it is to be a horse trainer. I don't know how honest you are, Philip, but I try to be relatively honest when you want to be a horse trainer.
I try to be overly honest.
Yeah, very honest.
Because if you're not determined, then don't do it for sure.
Yes, don't do it. You have to be very determined to be a horse trainer for sure. I like to say I'm a very well educated horse trainer because I do have a master's degree in international commerce and diplomacy, which is just kind of an interesting thing about me. I did go to grad school. And when I finished grad school, I just also, within 2 weeks of each other, did the USDF certification. And she's a really bad idea to do 2 comprehensive exams for your life within 3 weeks of each other. Oh, I was just an awful person to be around. I would say that the USDF certification was hands down harder than my diplomacy school. And I went to a top 10 school. So it was harder because there's more information that needs to be covered. And it's a very, very difficult program. But I am a huge advocate of the instructor certification program. And Philip, I don't know if you have one in Canada, but
we have a couple of different programs, for getting certified as a coach, but they're continuing to develop these ideas. I think they need to organize. They're continuing to develop the programs to make them better, and so not everyone who's out there coaching, myself included, is certified as an Equine Canada coach. It was just one of those things. I got a lot of my education when I went to Europe, and my family has been involved in horses forever. So, I kind of learned a lot of things in the school of hard knocks, or learn what not to do by actually doing it, and then realizing that was a really stupid thing to do. So. When I was growing up, I've always loved the horses, being around horses and riding horses, and so I got involved in dressage really early on. I don't have much of a background in the jumping other than some early on pony club stuff, so I had a very, I would say, specialized education. And then when I did decide that maybe I wanted to give it a try and be a horse trainer, I decided I would just, go the apprenticeship way. And I ended up moving to Europe to be a working student, and thought, I'm continuing to learn all the time. But at the time I thought, well, I'll just be a horse rider, right? I mean, I wasn't interested in teaching anybody. I was just like, I'm pretty good at riding, so that's what I should do, right? And when I went over there, and they taught me a lot about riding. And then they said, well, when I was preparing to come home, they said, what's your plan? I said, well, I'll go home, I'll buy a few horses, blah, blah, blah. Just being young and naive. And they said to me, well, guess what? That's not going to work.
Yeah.
You have to be in everything, right? You have to be good at a lot of things, to be successful in the business.
Yes.
Like it's a different world than it is in Europe. In Europe, they have people who specialize in just riding young horses, and people who specialize in doing this, and some great certification programs and stuff for being a very specialized person. But if you're doing it over here in North America, you have to be good at so much, and I'm still working on it. You have to be good at managing your finances. That's the big shock for me, was that I think I've always been pretty good at riding and bringing along young horses and being a little bit specialized in that way, but it just isn't good enough. And so I've been spending a lot of time trying to get good at different things.
And what you're saying is this is a business. It has to be run like a business. You can't run it as a horse person. Just because you're a good trainer doesn't mean you're going to succeed either.
Yeah,
you
absolutely
have to run it as a business, and if you're not qualified to do that, you better have somebody with you who is, because it's still a very tough business to make any money at and to make a living at.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I don't want to sugarcoat it either. It's
no,
tough. It's tough.
It is hard. And hours, I don't have working out, hours. I've gotten better as I've gotten older and my client base has grown to be a little bit more strict about when my hours are. But I still teach probably 3 nights a week till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I do take a day off because I try to have a life outside of horses. But you have to be able to manage your finances. You have to be able to market yourself. That's a huge one. And always, and that takes a lot of time. It's easier with Facebook and having your phone and that type of thing, but you have to have a website. You have to update your website. Even if you have somebody to do the website, you have to give them the material for the website. You have to be a psychologist.
And you have to be good. Yeah, you have to be good with people. You have to be really good with people. And I think there's a lot of people who are great with horses and who may not necessarily be successful because they're not great with people. And then you have, these personal relationships that are also business relationships as well. And I've gone through so many issues with that. And it's just very hard to find work-life balance, because, you and I both have a significant other that aren't horse trainers, right? So you have to kind of make time for other people in your life. And so, I think the conclusion is that it's, there's lots of great parts about it because, we really do love riding.
We do in our job.
And I've learned to really enjoy coaching over time and helping people with their horses. And it's a super rewarding experience, but, it's not all rosy, I guess. And
I'm going to speak for both of you here. Neither one of you make a lot of money doing this show, but you do it because you want to advance the sport, and plus, it's good for your business. It's part of that marketing. It's part of being out there in front of people. It's part of the people side. We've interviewed probably 2,000 successful people on the Horse Radio Network, and one of them that's successful, they say this business is 80% people and 20% horses. And where they fail is on the people side, not on the horse side.
Yes.
Because it's such a small world, you can very quickly become the person nobody wants to deal with. And if you become that, then you're not going to make it in the horse world.
Right. You can't have a business. Yeah. Right. You can't have a business. So if you're not making money, and then it's not a business, right? It becomes a hobby. And you can see that from time to time with different people who are just, you want to be more than just paying your way or paying for groceries. I mean, you've got to try and earn something to make a life, right? So that's very, hard. Very difficult.
Yeah, it is. And I think the other thing that people forget is we are people too sometimes. I know that sounds silly, but, at a horse show, it's cute because, my students, they're getting better. But they'll go home. They'll ride their horses and they'll go home. And I'm left there at the end of the day like, okay, we've got 8 horses to still put away. So I think, and sometimes if a trainer is crabby, we get crabby too every once in a while. I get crabby if I don't have a snack. Yeah. Well, and you never know. Like, for example, I had somebody just kind of show up at my barn on a Friday afternoon at 4:00 and without calling and I didn't want to be crabby with her, but I actually had some errands to run that weren't horse related, like the bank and the post office. And, it's hard not to be crabby at that point in time. I think anybody would be crabby.
I have a crabby time. It's from November to March.
Yes, you are crabby. I will second that.
So
it could be the 6 feet of snow and the minus 20 degrees. But
exactly. That you're working in, and we're out in it all day long. Or if it's 100 degrees, we're out in it all day long. And so sometimes we are a little crabby when we're cold or hot. Or so I think that's also part of the job. We don't work in air conditioning, and we work in all conditions, and we manage employees and their issues, and there's just a lot to this job. And not to discourage anybody. I don't want to discourage.
Well, I think a little bit to discourage. It's fun if you have another job and you can you can help a few people on the side, and you're good at that too. I think that's a wonderful thing because you can always kind of walk away from it if it gets too much. But when you're in it, like Reese and I are, it's you can't do that. It's every day. It's all the time, and you have to
look. It's Canada Day, and what's Philip doing talking to us?
I'm talking to you. We're doing a little horse radio, and I'm riding horses, and I'm teaching lessons this afternoon.
We don't have holidays. Yeah, holidays are when people want to ride.
Yeah, holidays are the times when our clients want to come and ride their horse because that's when they're free, right? They have a job. So we're working around other people's schedules, and
I think I think the old saying does apply. If you ever want to make a fortune with horses, start with one.
Yes.
That
if you want,
apply.
If you want to make a small fortune, start with a big one.
Big fortune, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And that is true in this business. And
or have a husband that makes a lot of money. Either way works.
Or wife.
Or wife, yeah.
Something like that.
Spouse, but
I failed at that one, by the way.
You have to enjoy the lifestyle too. I mean, obviously, on a beautiful day, and I'm riding my horses, and one of my favorite things is actually to come in for the 3 minutes I get for lunch, and I listen. I can't actually hear voices. I can hear the voices in the tack room, and the girls are laughing and having a great time, and that just makes my heart smile. And I walk in on a Sunday afternoon, and my horses are all whinnying at me. That's pretty cool. So that is the good part and the rewarding part of your job. But it is a challenging lifestyle. And I always tell people, if you want to do this job, you better be willing and able to work. I don't know how many hours a week I work. I actually don't want to tally it up.
Don't try and figure out what your actual hourly wage would be.
Yeah, I don't want to know. But but it is a wonderful lifestyle. I just think people need to be realistic, and it's very expensive, and it's very expensive in the beginning because you need the horses to get your name out. And
there's that continuing education aspect of it because I kind of look at it that I do the job to be able to afford me what would be my hobby, which would be riding in the high end, right? I mean that's the part that's not necessarily the job. It helps you out with making a name for yourself, but that's why I do this, to be able to do that sort of thing, and that's very expensive. Whether you have to pay for your my own trainer, Like some people look at it like, oh, well, I make so much an hour, right? But, then I have to pay for that person who makes 3 or 4 or 5 times more than I do for my lesson, right? So a lot of the money that comes in, it's just, from one hand to the other, right out the door to pay my own horse's board or vet bills. We all have those costs. They don't go down. So it's just... No. It's something to put a lot of thought into before you decide that, it's fun to teach your friend and just go ahead and do that. But like you said, I would recommend just doing the certification programs, and see how you like that and how you do with that. That's a great start.
Or come and just really sit down with a trainer and really ask them honestly, about what they do. And I have the book work is tremendously hard too, because I'm out in the barn, but then I've got to come in and run a business. And I do have a barn manager that comes in a couple hours a week, but still, she helps me pay the electric bill and that type of stuff. But also in the States, and I don't know about Canada, Philip, but we have to carry quite a bit of liability insurance
of course,
to do what we do.
There's a lot of hidden costs, right? I mean, with filing taxes and dealing with the financial side of it, there's costs involved, and insurance agents and lawyers and lots of things you don't even think about when you think about training a horse.
Talk to someone before you change your job,
or do a short working student thing, or maybe you do it on the weekends just to see if you like working 12 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly, every day. But and certainly Philip and I are happy to answer any questions if you have any more questions about becoming a trainer, or we will find or talk to one of our friends about it. But please contact someone before you change your job. That's where we're going with that.
Right, before you quit, right?
Before you quit. But everybody, we've enjoyed today's show, and we do enjoy listener questions. Please keep those coming. We like that, and it gives us something to talk about. But you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. You can like us on Facebook. Just search Dressage Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com. Go to it because I spend a lot of time there. And my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on our shows. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.